The stars looked different through the observation window of the horizon's edge. Victoria Hayes stood there, watching the massive station grow larger as their ship approached. She had been Earth's ambassador for 3 years, but this was the first time she would meet aliens face to face. Her reflection in the glass showed a woman in her 40s, dark hair pulled back, wearing a simple blue diplomatic suit. She looked calm, but her heart was racing. Behind her, Jake Morris checked his equipment one more time. He was head of security for this mission, a broad-shouldered man with gray starting to show in his short hair. He had been a Marine for 20 years before joining the diplomatic corps. His hands moved with practiced efficiency as he secured his sidearm and ran through mental checklists. Lisa Park sat at the engineering console, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. She was younger than both of them, barely 30, but she had helped build the faster-than-light engine that made this journey possible. The Horizon's Edge had left Earth 6 months ago. It was humanity's first ship capable of traveling faster than light, an achievement that took nearly a century of scientific development. The news had spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within days, the Galactic Council sent an invitation to Epsilon Prime, their neutral meeting station. They wanted to meet the newest species to join the community of spacefaring civilizations. The docking process was smooth. The station's computers communicated with their ship's systems without any problems, which surprised Lisa. She had expected compatibility issues, but the Council had sent them universal interface protocols months ago. The airlock sealed with a hiss, and green lights indicated safe atmosphere on the other side. Victoria took a deep breath and nodded to Jake. He opened the door. The reception hall beyond was enormous. The ceiling curved high above them, at least 50 feet up, and the walls seemed to shimmer with some kind of energy field. But what caught their attention were the aliens. There were dozens of them, representing species from across the galaxy. Some were humanoid, walking on 2 legs like people. Others floated in the air, their bodies made of what looked like pure light. There were creatures with 6 legs, beings that looked like living crystals and things that defied easy description. A tall figure stepped forward. It walked on 2 powerful legs and had scales that shifted colors from blue to green. Its eyes were golden and sharp. When it spoke, the words came through a translation device that everyone wore. "Welcome, humans of Earth. I am Vexthor, military advisor to the Galactic Council. We have waited with great interest for your arrival." His voice was deep and carried an edge of amusement. Victoria extended her hand, then remembered that handshakes might not be universal. Vexthor looked at her hand for a moment, then reached out with his own clawed appendage and grasped it carefully. His skin was warm and dry, like leather left in the sun. "Thank you for the invitation," Victoria said. "We're honored to be here." The council chamber was even more impressive than the reception hall. It was circular with seats arranged in rising tiers. Each seat was designed for a different species, accommodating different body types and environmental needs. The human delegation was shown to 3 seats near the bottom tier, marked as provisional members. The council session began with formal introductions. Each species presented themselves, stating their name, their world of origin, and their contribution to the galactic community. There were miners from the asteroid belts of Rigel, scientists from the crystal gardens of Proxima, traders from the hub worlds of the Merchant Guild. When it came to humanity's turn, Victoria stood. "I am Victoria Hayes, representing Earth and humanity. We come in peace and friendship, hoping to learn from you and share what we know. We have just achieved faster-than-light travel. We know we have much to learn." There were sounds from the audience that the translator rendered as polite acknowledgement, but Victoria noticed something else in their body language. The way some of them tilted their heads or shifted in their seats. It reminded her of how adults looked at children who said something cute but naive. Vexthor stood next. "The Council welcomes humanity to the galactic community. Your achievement of faster-than-light travel is commendable. However, we have noted something unusual in our analysis of your civilization." He paused, and the chamber fell silent. "You have reached the stars without developing energy weaponry. This is unprecedented in galactic history." Victoria felt Jake tense beside her. She kept her expression neutral. "We focused our research on propulsion and life support systems. We felt those were more important for space exploration." A being made of floating geometric shapes spoke next. The translator gave it a feminine voice. Every species that has joined this council developed directed energy weapons before faster-than-light travel. Plasma rifles, photon cannons, molecular disruptors. These are considered fundamental technologies. The fact that humanity skipped this step is both fascinating and concerning. Another alien chimed in, this one vaguely insectoid with multiple eyes. How do you defend yourselves? How do you maintain order and security without proper weaponry? Jake spoke up, his voice steady. We have weapons. Firearms, explosives, blade weapons. They've served us well for centuries. There was a sound that the translator couldn't quite render, but it felt like laughter. Vexthor's scales rippled in what might have been amusement. Kinetic projectile weapons and unpowered blades. Yes, we saw those in our research. Primitive but effective for a pre-spacefaring species. But surely you understand these are inadequate for interstellar security. Lisa leaned forward. Our weapons work just fine. They're reliable and effective. Vexthor gestured and a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a sleek device about 2 feet long. This is a standard plasma blade, issued to civilian travelers throughout Council space. It generates a contained plasma field along a magnetic channel, capable of cutting through most materials and energy shields. Even children learn to use these in basic safety courses. The display changed, showing various species wielding similar weapons. Some had rifles that shot bolts of pure energy. Others had devices that seemed to manipulate gravity or generate fields of force. The technology was impressive and far beyond what humanity had developed. We have defense turrets that can track and eliminate threats at light-second ranges. Vexthor continued. Shields that can absorb megajoules of energy. Personal armor that can withstand direct plasma hits. These are standard technologies, not military secrets. The fact that humanity lacks these makes us concerned for your safety. Victoria felt the weight of their judgment. They weren't being cruel, but they clearly saw humanity as vulnerable, like a child wandering into a dangerous neighborhood. We appreciate your concern, she said carefully. But humanity has survived and thrived for thousands of years. We're more resilient than we might appear. An elderly alien with wise eyes and translucent skin spoke gently. No one doubts your spirit, Ambassador Hayes. But spirit alone will not protect you from pirates, raiders, or hostile species. The galaxy is not always kind to the unprepared. Vexthor stepped down from his position and approached the human delegation. Up close, he was intimidating. Easily 7 feet tall with muscles visible beneath his scales. He drew a plasma blade from his belt and activated it. The weapon hummed to life, a bright blue-white glow extending about 18 inches from the handle. Heat radiated from it, enough that Victoria could feel it from several feet away. With respect, Ambassador, your people use solid projectiles and metal blades. These are museum pieces to us. If humanity ventures too far from your home system without proper defenses, you will encounter dangers you cannot handle. He deactivated the blade and offered it to Victoria. I would be honored to arrange training for your people. We can teach you to use modern weapons, proper defensive technology. It is the least we can do for a new member species. Victoria took the weapon, feeling its weight. It was lighter than she expected, balanced perfectly. She could see the craftsmanship in it. The technology compressed into such a small package. Part of her wanted to accept immediately, to bring this knowledge back to Earth. But another part of her, the part that had negotiated treaties and read between the lines of diplomatic speak, sensed something. They were offering help, yes, but they were also making a judgment. Humanity was primitive. Humanity needed to be educated, uplifted, brought up to galactic standards. The offer of training wasn't just kindness. It was a statement of superiority. She looked at Jake, who had remained silent during the demonstration. He was watching Vexthor with the calm assessment of someone who had faced danger before. His hands were relaxed at his sides, but Victoria knew he was aware of every exit, every potential threat, every angle of approach in the room. That was his training, his nature. Victoria handed the plasma blade back to Vexthor. Thank you for your generous offer. We'll certainly consider it. But for now, we'd like to observe and learn about the Council's operations before making any decisions about military technology. Vexthor accepted the blade back, his golden eyes studying her. As you wish. The Council grants humanity provisional membership status. You may attend sessions, participate in trade, and access public databases. The colony ship New Seattle had been in orbit around Kepler 442f for 3 months when the raiders came. It was a good world, this distant planet circling an orange star. The air was breathable, The water was clean, and the local ecosystem was compatible with human biology. 200 colonists had already begun building the first permanent structures on the surface, while another 100 remained aboard the ship, managing systems and coordinating supply drops. Captain Danny Wright sat in his command chair, reviewing supply manifests. He was a practical man in his 50s, with weathered hands and a face that had seen too much sun. He had captained cargo haulers for 30 years before volunteering for this mission. The New Seattle wasn't a warship. It was a converted heavy transport, designed to carry people and equipment across vast distances. Its weapons consisted of 4 defensive turrets with conventional cannons, meant to deal with space debris and minor threats. Dr. Amy Chen was planetside, studying soil samples from the northern continent. She had set up a small laboratory in one of the prefab buildings, surrounded by specimen containers and analysis equipment. At 35, she was one of the youngest colonists, but her expertise in xenobiology made her invaluable. She was examining something under a microscope when her communicator buzzed. "Amy, we need you back at the ship." It was Danny's voice, calm but urgent. "I'm in the middle of something. Can it wait?" "No, we have incoming ships. Unknown configuration. I want all non-essential personnel back aboard within the hour." Amy felt a chill run through her. She had heard the stories about space pirates, about raiders who preyed on isolated colonies and undefended ships. She quickly secured her samples and headed for the shuttle. Ryan Blake was already at his station when Amy arrived back at the ship. He was head of security, a former soldier who had served with Jake Morris before joining the colonial expedition. Ryan was tall and lean, with the controlled movements of someone who had been in combat. His security team consisted of 20 people, most of them veterans or police officers who had volunteered for the mission. The raiding ships appeared on sensors an hour later. There were 5 of them, sleek and predatory-looking. They moved with the confidence of predators who had done this many times before. The lead ship opened a communication channel. The alien who appeared on screen was reptilian but different from Vex Thor. This creature had mottled green and brown scales, multiple eyes, and a mouthful of sharp teeth. When it spoke, the translator rendered its voice as harsh and mocking. "Human vessel, this is Commander Scrax of the Kresh Empire. You are in violation of Kresh territorial claims. Surrender your ship and cargo and you will be permitted to leave in your landing craft. Resist, and we will take what we want and leave you floating in the void. You have 5 minutes to decide." Danny looked at Ryan, who stood beside his chair. "Options?" Ryan studied the tactical display. The Kresh ships were smaller than the New Seattle but faster and better armed. He could see plasma cannons charging on their hulls, energy shields already active. They were configured for piracy, designed to disable and board rather than destroy. That made sense. Dead colonists couldn't be ransomed and intact ships were worth more than debris. "We can't outrun them," Ryan said. "Our FTL drive needs 30 minutes to charge and they'll be on us in 5. We could fight, but those plasma cannons will cut through our hull eventually. We're not designed for combat." Danny leaned back in his chair thinking. He had 200 lives depending on his decisions. The Kresh were notorious throughout the fringe territories. The Galactic Council considered them criminals, but lacked the authority to police every remote system. Species without strong militaries or powerful allies were vulnerable to their raids. He thought about surrendering, letting them take the cargo, maybe even the ship, as long as his people survived. But he had heard stories about Kresh raids. Sometimes they kept their word. Sometimes they didn't. And even if they did, losing the ship would doom the colony. Without supplies and equipment, they would be stranded. "Ryan, what are our chances if they try to board us?" Ryan was quiet for a moment. He had trained his security team for various scenarios, including boarding actions, but they had never faced combat against energy weapons. Their equipment consisted of standard firearms, body armor designed to stop bullets, and various non-lethal tools for crowd control. By galactic standards, they were primitively armed. In open space, we'd lose. They have better weapons and shields. But if they board us, Ryan paused, considering. Ships are tight spaces. Narrow corridors, limited sightlines. Their plasma weapons are powerful, but they need room to maneuver. And those energy shields they carry are designed to stop plasma bolts and energy beams, not solid projectiles. Danny understood. In close quarters, where speed and flexibility mattered more than raw firepower, humans might have an advantage. It was a gamble, but everything was a gamble now. How long do we have? Danny asked. 4 minutes until their deadline. Then probably another 15 minutes of demands and threats before they actually attack. They'll want us scared. Danny opened a ship-wide channel. All personnel, this is the captain. We have hostile ships inbound. They're demanding surrender. I'm not going to do that. Security teams, prepare for boarding action. Everyone else, seal yourselves in secure compartments and wait for the all clear. This is not a drill. Ryan moved to the armory. His team was already there, gearing up. They wore tactical body armor, black and utilitarian. Each person checked their weapons with practiced efficiency. Pistols, rifles, shotguns, and a few other surprises. One person, a former police officer named Kate Liu, was loading a shotgun with breaching rounds. Another, a veteran named Marcus Webb, was strapping a knife to his vest. Listen up, Ryan said. The Kresh use plasma blades for boarding actions. They're effective weapons, but they have limitations. Plasma needs a magnetic containment field, which means the blade has a minimum effective range. Get inside that range and they can't hit you without hitting themselves. Kate checked her gear one more time. So we fight them hand to hand? If we have to. Remember your training. Use the environment. These corridors are narrow. Their weapons are designed for open combat. Ours aren't. We're going to make every meter of this ship cost them. The Kresh commander's 5-minute deadline passed. Then 10 minutes. The alien sent another transmission. This one angrier. Danny responded with silence. The Kresh ships moved closer, forming an attack pattern. Their plasma cannons fired warning shots, bright bolts that streaked past the New Seattle's hull. Then they launched boarding pods. The pods were small, fast-moving craft designed to latch onto a ship's hull and cut through. The New Seattle's defensive turrets opened fire. Conventional cannons spitting solid rounds. 2 pods exploded, their shields unable to stop the kinetic impacts. But 3 more got through, clamping onto different sections of the ship. Cutting torches began to burn through the hull. Ryan positioned his teams at defensive choke points near each breach site. The colonists had sealed themselves in secure areas, leaving the corridors clear. The ship's lighting dimmed to emergency mode, casting everything in red shadows. The first breach opened in the cargo bay. Atmosphere hissed out until emergency seals activated. The Kresh boarding party stormed through, 12 warriors in light armor with plasma blades gleaming. They expected to find terrified colonists or maybe a few guards with primitive weapons. Instead, they found Ryan Blake and 5 security officers waiting in defensive positions behind cargo containers. The Kresh leader roared something that the translator rendered as a battle cry. He charged forward, his plasma blade raised high. His warriors followed, confident in their superior weapons and training. They had done this dozens of times before. Ryan didn't move. He waited, his body relaxed, his breathing steady. The Kresh leader was fast, but Ryan had been training for combat since he was 18. He had fought in 3 wars and countless smaller conflicts. He knew how to read movement, how to judge distance and timing. The Kresh swung his plasma blade in a wide arc. Ryan stepped inside the swing, too close for the blade to come around. His hands moved with brutal efficiency. One hand grabbed the alien's weapon arm, controlling it. The other struck the Kresh's throat, a precise blow that crushed the creature's windpipe. The alien staggered, gasping. Ryan redirected the creature's momentum and drove it face first into a steel bulkhead. The impact was solid and final. The Kresh leader dropped, its blade deactivating. The other Kresh hesitated, shocked. These weren't supposed to be warriors. The intelligence report said humans had no energy weapons, no proper combat training. But the human in front of them had just killed their leader in seconds using nothing but his hands. That moment of hesitation was fatal. Ryan's team opened fire. Shotguns boomed in the confined space, firing solid slugs that punched through energy shields designed for plasma weapons. The Kresh scattered, trying to find cover, but the cargo bay was a kill zone. 2 more aliens fell in the first volley. The remaining Kresh tried to mount a counterattack. They had numbers and superior weapons, but the humans had chosen their ground carefully. The cargo containers created narrow lanes of approach. The Kresh. The news from Kepler 442f spread through galactic communication networks faster than anyone expected. A human colony ship had repelled a Kresh raiding party. The Kresh themselves, humiliated and confused, shared their version of events with other pirate groups, warning them that humans were more dangerous than they appeared. The story grew with each retelling, becoming something between fact and legend. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session to discuss the incident. Victoria Hayes received the summons while she was on Earth, meeting with military advisors and government officials. The message was polite but firm. The council wanted an explanation. They wanted to understand how an unarmed colony had defeated 42 Kresh warriors equipped with modern weapons. Victoria prepared her response carefully. She consulted with Ryan Blake, who had submitted a detailed after-action report. She spoke with military historians who specialized in close-quarters combat, and she developed a proposal that would either prove humanity's worth or embarrass them in front of the entire galactic community. 3 weeks later, Victoria stood before the council chamber once again. This time she was not alone. Behind her stood 10 humans wearing simple training uniforms. They looked ordinary, not like elite soldiers or super warriors. That was intentional. Vex Thor was present, his scaled face showing curiosity and skepticism in equal measure. He had read the reports from Kepler 442f. He had analyzed the tactical data, and he remained unconvinced that the incident represented anything more than luck and favorable circumstances. Ambassador Hayes, Vex Thor began, the council has reviewed the incident at your colony world. We congratulate you on your survival. However, many of us believe the Kresh were overconfident and made tactical errors. Their defeat does not necessarily indicate that human combat methods are superior to galactic standard practices. Victoria nodded, expecting this. I understand your skepticism. That's why I've brought a proposal, a joint training demonstration, to be observed by the council. Your finest warriors against a team of human combatants. We'll use the council's own simulation arena and follow whatever rules you consider fair. The chamber buzzed with conversation. Various council members debated the proposal in their own languages. Some seemed excited by the prospect. Others appeared offended, as if Victoria was challenging the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. A crystalline being whose body refracted light into rainbow patterns spoke with a voice like wind chimes. What rules do you propose, Ambassador? Standard combat simulation, Victoria replied. Non-lethal but realistic. Incapacitation counts as elimination. We'll use the Council's own sensor technology to track hits and determine outcomes. Your warriors can use whatever weapons and equipment they normally carry. My team will use what we brought. Vex Thor leaned forward, his golden eyes studying Victoria carefully. You realize that our warriors train from childhood? They are experts in energy weapon combat, shield manipulation, and tactical coordination. They have fought in real conflicts across the galaxy. I understand. That's why I'm proposing 20 of your warriors against 10 of mine. If your methods are superior, the numbers advantage should make victory certain. The challenge was clear now. Victoria was essentially calling out the entire galactic military establishment, suggesting that human methods could overcome not just superior weapons, but a 2-to-1 numerical disadvantage. It was bold to the point of recklessness. Vex Thor's scales rippled in what might have been amusement or anger. Very well. I accept your proposal. I will personally select 20 warriors from various species, all trained to galactic military standards. We will meet in the simulation arena in 3 days. This will be broadcast to all council members so there can be no disputes about the results. Victoria bowed slightly. Thank you. We'll be ready. Over the next 3 days, Victoria's team prepared. The leader was Kelly Wright, a woman in her early 30s who stood barely 5'4". She had served in the Marine Corps for 12 years, specializing in close-quarters combat and hand-to-hand fighting. Her instructor certifications included multiple martial arts, and she had spent 2 years teaching defensive tactics to military and law enforcement personnel. The rest of the team was equally qualified, but deliberately diverse. There was Sam Martinez, a police officer from Los Angeles who specialized in high-risk warrant service. There was Nicole Brown, a former Army combatives instructor. There was Greg Stone, a bouncer who held black belts in 3 different martial arts. The others came from similar backgrounds, people who knew how to fight not because they carried impressive weapons, but because they had trained their bodies and minds for combat. They spent the 3 days studying the simulation arena, layout and discussing tactics. Kelly emphasized flexibility over rigid planning. We don't know exactly what we'll face, so we stay adaptable. Remember, their weapons are powerful, but they have limitations. Plasma blades need space to swing. Energy shields drain power and reduce mobility. We use that. The simulation arena was impressive, a massive structure that could generate various combat environments using hard light projections and force fields. For this demonstration, the Council selected an urban environment, a mock city with buildings, streets, and multiple levels. It was neutral ground that favored neither side. The Galactic warriors arrived in formation. Bexthor had chosen well. There were reptilian soldiers from his own species, insectoid warriors with natural armor, energy beings who could phase through solid matter, and others representing the diversity of Council military forces. Each carried a plasma blade and wore light armor designed to stop energy weapons. Several also had defensive shields that generated protective force fields. The human team arrived in simple tactical gear, black body armor, practical boots, gloves with reinforced knuckles. They carried no firearms, no visible weapons at all. To the galactic observers, they looked impossibly vulnerable. The rules were explained by an AI referee that would monitor the simulation. Both teams would enter the arena from opposite sides. Solid hits with plasma blades would register as eliminations. Physical strikes that would cause incapacitation in real combat would also register as eliminations. The simulation would end when one team was entirely eliminated, or after 30 minutes, whichever came first. Kelly gathered her team in a circle before entering the arena. Remember what we talked about. They expect us to be scared of their weapons. They expect us to keep our distance and try to survive. We're going to do the opposite. We get close, we stay close, and we use every advantage we have. Sam Martinez grinned. So the usual plan. Get punched in the face and punch back harder. Kelly laughed despite the tension. Basically, yeah, the simulation began. Both teams entered the mock city from opposite ends. The Galactic warriors spread out immediately, using standard military tactics. They moved in pairs, covering each other, communicating through their helmet systems. They were professional and coordinated, exactly what you would expect from trained soldiers. The human team moved differently. They stayed together initially, moving through buildings rather than streets, using cover not to hide but to control approach angles. Kelly led them to a multi-story structure in the center of the arena, a position that offered multiple exit routes and good visibility. The first contact occurred 6 minutes into the simulation. Two Galactic warriors moving through a narrow alley encountered Nicole Brown and Greg Stone. The aliens activated their plasma blades and charged. Confident in their weapons' superiority, Nicole didn't retreat. She moved forward directly at the charging warrior. The alien swung its blade in a horizontal arc. Nicole dropped under the swing, feeling the heat pass above her head, and drove forward with her shoulder, hitting the warrior's center of mass. The impact knocked the alien off balance. Before it could recover, Nicole's elbow came up, striking what sensors identified as a critical nerve cluster. The warrior went down, registered as eliminated. Greg engaged the second warrior at the same moment. This alien was larger, more experienced. It didn't make the mistake of a wild swing. Instead, it used its plasma blade defensively, keeping Greg at distance. But Greg had fought bigger, stronger opponents his entire life. He feinted left, drew the blade's defensive movement, then went right. His hand closed on the alien's weapon arm. He twisted using leverage rather than strength, and brought his knee up into the warrior's midsection. The impact folded the alien forward. Greg's other hand struck the back of its head, driving it down. Elimination registered. The watching council members reacted with shock. Two trained warriors had been taken down in seconds by humans who didn't even carry weapons. Vexthor's expression was unreadable, but his scales had stopped their usual gentle movement. He was focused entirely on the simulation. The Galactic team adjusted their tactics. They began moving in larger groups, 3 or 4 warriors together, trying to use numerical superiority to overwhelm any human they encountered. But the humans had anticipated this. They used the urban environment to break up the larger groups, forcing engagements in tight spaces where numbers mattered less. Sam Martinez found himself facing 3 warriors in a narrow corridor between buildings. The aliens came at him together, plasma blades. The warning came from the Outer Rim territories, from colonies so remote they barely maintained contact with the Galactic Council. The messages were fragmented and desperate. Ships were disappearing. Entire stations went silent. Something was coming out of dark space, something that didn't respond to communication and showed no mercy. The Council dispatched investigation fleets. Most never returned. The few that did brought terrifying reports of machine intelligences, vast swarms of automated drones that overwhelmed defenses through sheer numbers. They called them the Voidborn, an ancient artificial intelligence that had been dormant for millennia, now awakened and hostile. Admiral Chris Morgan sat in his office on Earth, reviewing the intelligence reports with growing concern. He was a career Navy officer, 58 years old with gray hair and the weathered look of someone who had spent most of his life in space. He had commanded everything from patrol boats to carriers during his service, and now he led Earth's hastily assembled defense fleet. The reports were grim. The Voidborn adapted to every tactic used against them. Their shields evolved to counter plasma weapons within hours of first contact. They learned from each encounter, upgrading their defenses and changing their strategies. Conventional galactic warfare was failing catastrophically. Chris called a meeting with his senior officers. They gathered in the briefing room, studying holographic displays that showed the Voidborn advance. The machine swarms were moving through the outer rim like a plague, consuming resources and leaving dead worlds in their wake. Current projections have them reaching Council core worlds within 6 months, Chris said. The Council fleets have lost 30% of their effective strength trying to stop them. Traditional tactics aren't working. The Voidborn shields adapt too quickly to energy weapons. Lieutenant Maya Foster, head of the Marine contingent, studied the tactical data with intense focus. She was 32, compact and athletic, with the controlled intensity of someone who had seen combat and learned from it. What about kinetic weapons? Have the Council tried using solid projectiles? Limited attempts. Most Council ships have minimal kinetic armament. Their entire military doctrine is built around energy weapons. Retooling would take years. Chris pulled up another display showing Earth's defense fleet. 12 ships, none of them larger than a heavy cruiser. By galactic standards, it was a pathetic force. But those 12 ships were different. They mounted railguns as primary weapons, massive electromagnetic accelerators that could launch tungsten slugs at relativistic velocities. They carried missile batteries loaded with various warhead types. Their point defense systems used rapid-fire conventional cannons rather than energy beams. The Earth defense fleet had been built with human doctrine in mind, using technology Earth understood best. The Council is requesting assistance, Chris continued. They want us to send ships to Tharsis Station. It's a fortress world heavily defended, but the Voidborn are massing for an assault. If Tharsis falls, the inner systems are exposed. Maya leaned back in her chair. How many Voidborn are we talking about? Estimates suggest several thousand drones, plus at least 3 motherships. The motherships are the real problem. They coordinate the drones and manufacture reinforcements. As long as the motherships survive, the Voidborn can replace losses indefinitely. The room fell silent. Everyone understood the implications. This wasn't a battle humanity could win through superior technology. Earth's ships were still primitive compared to galactic standard vessels. But they had something the Voidborn hadn't encountered yet. They had weapons that didn't rely on energy emissions, and they had Marines trained in boarding actions. When do we leave? Maya asked. Chris smiled grimly. 3 days. Start loading your people. We're taking all 4 Marine transports. If we can board those motherships, we might be able to shut them down from the inside. Over the next 72 hours, Earth mobilized for war. The 12 ships of the defense fleet underwent final systems checks. Marines loaded equipment and ran through boarding action drills. Scientists and engineers worked around the clock to ensure every system functioned perfectly. There would be no second chances. Maya's Marines were a mix of veterans and younger soldiers, 200 in total. They wore powered exoskeletons that enhanced strength and protected against harsh environments. Their armor was designed to stop physical impacts and absorb energy weapon hits through ablative layers. Each Marine carried conventional firearms, breaching charges and close combat weapons adapted from civilian tools. They had trained extensively in zero-gravity combat and hostile boarding scenarios. Among them was Corporal Ben Wright, a demolitions expert with a talent for improvisation. There was Sergeant Linda Park, a veteran of the colony defense at Kepler 442F, who had volunteered for this mission specifically. There was Private First Class Tony Martinez, fresh out of training, but eager to prove himself. They represented humanity's response to a threat that terrified the galaxy. The Earth fleet arrived at Tharsis Station 3 weeks later. The fortress world orbited a blue giant star, its surface covered with defensive installations, and its orbit filled with warships from a dozen council species. The galactic fleet was impressive. Hundreds of vessels ranging from small frigates to massive dreadnoughts bristling with plasma cannons and photon lances. Admiral Chris Morgan met with the Galactic commanders via holographic conference. Vexthor was present, now commanding a council battle group. The reptilian warrior looked tired, his scales dull from stress and exhaustion. "Admiral Morgan, your arrival is welcomed. We need every ship we can get." Vexthor gestured to a tactical display showing the approaching Voidborn force. "They will be here within 18 hours. We estimate 3,000 drones and 5 motherships. Our previous engagements suggest we can destroy approximately 60% of the drones before our shields fail. And they overrun us." Chris studied the display carefully. "What about the motherships? Can your weapons damage them?" "Eventually, but they are heavily shielded. By the time we penetrate their defenses, the drone swarm will have disabled most of our fleet. The motherships always survive long enough to salvage their forces and retreat." "What if we don't try to destroy them from outside?" Chris proposed. "What if we board them instead?" The Galactic commanders reacted with shock. Boarding a mothership was considered suicide. The Voidborn defended their capital ships with automated defense systems, specifically designed to eliminate intruders, plasma cutters, energy fields, and mechanical drones that killed anything organic they encountered. Vexthor's scales rippled with concern. "Admiral, I have the greatest respect for human combat abilities, but boarding a Voidborn mothership is beyond dangerous. Their internal defenses are specifically designed to counter organic life. Many species have tried boarding actions. None succeeded. They tried using energy weapons and shields." Maya interjected from her position. "They fought the Voidborn's fight. We're going to fight our fight." The conference continued for another hour, but eventually the Galactic commanders agreed to the plan. They would engage the Voidborn fleet as planned, drawing attention away from the Earthships. While the main battle raged, the marine transports would approach the motherships and attempt boarding actions. It was desperate and dangerous, but conventional warfare had already failed. The Voidborn arrived exactly on schedule, their fleet emerging from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. The drones were sleek and deadly, small fighters that moved with mechanical precision. The motherships were massive, each one the size of a small moon, their surfaces covered with manufacturing bays and weapon systems. The battle began immediately. The Galactic fleet opened fire with thousands of plasma cannons and photon lances. Space lit up with energy weapon fire. The Voidborn shields glowed as they absorbed the incoming fire, exactly as predicted. Within minutes, the shields began adapting, becoming more efficient, requiring more energy to damage. The Earthships held back initially, waiting for the right moment. When the Voidborn drones committed to attacking the Galactic fleet, Chris gave the order. "All ships engage. Target the drones. Show them what kinetic weapons can do." The Earth fleet opened fire. Railgun slugs crossed the distance at a fraction of light speed, solid projectiles that the Voidborn shields were not designed to stop. The drone's energy-absorbing technology was useless against physical impacts. Dozens of drones exploded as tungsten slugs punched through them like paper. Missiles followed, spreading clouds of shrapnel that shredded drone formations. The Voidborn tried to adapt, maneuvering to avoid the projectiles, but kinetic weapons didn't give them time to analyze and counter. The Earthships carved through the drone swarm with brutal efficiency. The Galactic commanders watched in amazement. The primitive human vessels were achieving better results than ships 10 times their size. The Voidborn, accustomed to overwhelming enemies through adaptive defenses, found themselves facing weapons their shields couldn't absorb and their tactics couldn't counter. While the main fleet held the drones' attention, the marine transports made their approach. Maya's ship, the Valkyrie, moved toward the largest mothership using the battle's chaos as cover. The mothership's defensive systems tracked them, but the ship's armor was designed to stop physical. The months following Tharsis Station transformed the galaxy in ways no one had anticipated. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session that lasted 3 weeks, restructuring military doctrine and defense strategies based on lessons learned from humanity. Victoria Hayes no longer sat in the provisional member section. Earth now occupied a primary seat at the council table, acknowledged as a full member with voting rights and military authority. The change was deeper than just politics. Across council space, training facilities opened where human instructors taught alien soldiers the fundamentals of close-quarters combat, what humans called combatives martial arts, hand-to-hand fighting. These weren't backup skills anymore. They were recognized as fundamental capabilities that every soldier needed. Kelly Wright found herself commanding the largest training initiative in galactic history. She had been promoted to colonel and given authority over a program that would eventually train millions of alien soldiers. The main facility was built on a moon orbiting Epsilon Prime, a massive complex with training halls, simulation chambers, and living quarters for instructors and students from hundreds of species. On any given day, Kelly might teach a class of crystalline beings how to maintain structural integrity while grappling, demonstrate joint locks to insectoid warriors with completely different anatomy, or help energy-based life forms understand the principles of force and leverage. It was challenging work, adapting human combat techniques to alien physiologies, but it was also deeply rewarding. Sam Martinez had become her senior instructor, specializing in teaching defensive tactics. He had a gift for breaking down complex movements into simple principles that worked across species. Nicole Brown ran the advanced programs, training elite units in specialized boarding tactics. Greg Stone, surprisingly, became the most popular instructor. His patient teaching style and genuine enthusiasm made him a favorite among alien students who initially feared they would never understand human combat methods. The cultural exchange went both ways. Human soldiers arrived to learn galactic technology. They studied energy weapon systems, shield manipulation, and advanced tactical coordination. Earth's military academies now taught courses on plasma weapon safety, alongside traditional firearms training. Human ships integrated energy shields and photon cannons into their designs, while keeping their railguns and missile systems. But the most important change was philosophical. The galaxy had spent thousands of years assuming technology was the answer to every military challenge. Better weapons, stronger shields, faster ships. Humanity reminded them that sometimes the oldest solutions were still effective, that a soldier's body and mind were weapons that technology could enhance but never replace. Admiral Chris Morgan coordinated the Joint Task Force, hunting remaining void-borne fleets. His command included ships from Earth and a dozen council species, a truly integrated force where humans and aliens served together. The task force combined human kinetic weapons with alien energy systems, creating a flexible doctrine that the void-born struggled to counter. Every ship in the task force now carried mixed boarding teams. Humans taught aliens how to fight at close range. Aliens taught humans how to use energy weapons effectively. They learned each other's strengths and covered each other's weaknesses. The boarding teams became legendary, elite units that could storm even the most heavily defended void-born positions. Lieutenant Maya Foster led one such team. Her squad included humans, reptilians like Vexthor's species, insectoid warriors, and even an energy being who had learned to maintain solid form during combat. They trained together, fought together, and developed the kind of trust that only comes from shared danger and mutual respect. 6 months after Tharsis Station, intelligence reports located the void-born Central Intelligence. It was hidden in a rogue planetoid at the edge of known space, a massive facility where the artificial intelligence coordinated its remaining forces. Taking it out would effectively end the war. The Council assembled the largest military force in galactic history. 300 ships, including the entire Earth Defense Fleet, converged on the planetoid, but everyone understood that space combat wouldn't win this battle. The Central Intelligence was deep underground, protected by layers of armor and defensive systems. Someone would have to go in and destroy it manually. Kelly Wright volunteered to lead the assault team. She was a trainer now, not a frontline soldier, but this mission needed someone with her experience and reputation. Maya Foster volunteered immediately, as did Vexthor. Together, they assembled a team of 10,000 soldiers, the largest boarding action ever attempted. Humans and aliens in equal numbers, the best warriors from across the galaxy. They spent 2 weeks planning the assault. The planetoid's interior was a maze of tunnels and chambers, all designed to defend the Central Intelligence. Automated defenses filled every corridor. Guardian drones numbering in the tens of thousands would resist any intrusion. The Voidborn had learned from previous defeats and adapted its defenses specifically to counterboarding tactics. The assault began with a massive orbital bombardment. The combined fleet poured fire into the planetoid, both energy weapons and kinetic bombardment, creating breaches in the outer shell. Landing craft dove through the bombardment, carrying assault teams to multiple entry points. The plan was to attack simultaneously from dozens of directions, overwhelming the Voidborn's ability to respond. Kelly's team landed in the northern hemisphere, breaching through layers of rock and metal into a vast underground complex. The Voidborn was waiting. Automated turrets opened fire immediately. Energy barriers sealed corridors. Guardian drones swarmed from hidden passages. The artificial intelligence spoke through every speaker in the facility. Biological entities. Your assault is anticipated. Countermeasures are active. Probability of success 0.3%. Withdrawal is advised. Kelly cracked her knuckles, the gesture now recognized across the galaxy as humanity's declaration that they were about to do something dangerous and probably stupid. We've heard that before. Didn't stop us then, won't stop us now. The assault teams pushed forward. The fighting was brutal and intense. The Voidborn had adapted, creating defenses specifically designed to counter close-quarters combat. Narrow passages that limited mobility, kill zones with overlapping fields of fire, traps that triggered when soldiers got too close. But the assault teams had adapted too. They used breaching charges and heavy weapons to create new passages. They coordinated across multiple fronts, forcing the Voidborn to spread its defenses thin. Human soldiers taught aliens how to use cover and movement in confined spaces. Aliens showed humans how to use energy shields for mobile protection. Maya's team fought through the eastern approach, a series of manufacturing bays where the Voidborn produced its Guardian drones. The automated factories tried to overwhelm them with sheer numbers, but the team had planned for this. They used demolition charges to collapse sections of the facility, creating choke points where numbers didn't matter. They fought with the coordination of a unit that had trained together for months, each member covering others' weaknesses and amplifying their strengths. Bexthor led a team through the western tunnels, his natural strength enhanced by human combat techniques. He had spent months learning from human instructors, studying how to use leverage and technique to overcome stronger opponents. Now he taught those lessons to his alien warriors while fighting through waves of Guardian drones. The reptilian commander had gone from skeptic to true believer in human combat methods. The assault teams converged on the central chamber after 6 hours of continuous fighting. Every team had suffered casualties. Equipment was failing, ammunition running low, armor cracked and breached. But they had fought through everything the Voidborn threw at them, and now they stood before the artificial intelligence's core. The chamber was enormous, easily 1,000 feet in diameter. The central intelligence occupied the center, a massive construct of processors and servers, power cores and neural networks. Defensive systems filled the space, turrets and energy barriers and Guardian drones in overwhelming numbers. The AI had concentrated its remaining forces here for a final defense. Kelly and Maya approached together, with Vexthor close behind. The three of them had become symbols of the Galactic Alliance, representatives of what cooperation between species could achieve. Around them, thousands of soldiers prepared for the final assault, humans and aliens standing shoulder to shoulder. The Voidborn spoke, its voice echoing through the chamber. Final analysis complete. You have demonstrated unexpected adaptability. Your tactics, combining primitive kinetic weapons with energy systems, create challenges for standard countermeasures. Your willingness to engage at close range negates many defensive advantages. You are more formidable than initial projections indicated. Yeah, we get that a lot, Maya replied. However, the AI continued, this does not change the outcome. You are damaged, depleted, exhausted. I control this facility and all its systems. Victory remains statistically impossible for biological entities. Kelly stepped forward, her armor scarred from hours of combat. You keep talking about statistics and probabilities. You analyze everything,